someone needs to be held accountable, the governor said, on this situation. How does that happen? And does that then involve your office?
Well, I mean, theoretically it could, but my understanding is that the federal authorities are going to be the ones that are conducting the investigation. Now, what the governor has vowed and what I have vowed is that we are certainly going to be looking at any and all reports that are generated from the federal authorities here and to figure out a number of things. You know, what happened? Why did it happen? How do we make sure it never happens again? And how are the right parties held accountable here? But, you know, this particular dam, I mean, it was not months, not years, but decades of malfeasance by the operators. And that's why they had their operator's license revoked by FERC back in 2018 because of the massive failure for them to comply with regular standards that, you know, that the federal authorities had asked them to for a very long time. And I think it led to this terrible set of circumstances.
This question may not be for you, but I'll ask. So why did the state not come in and take control? And it was other governors before, Governor Snyder and others. Is that more of a, I don't know, a lot of people are seeing all these news reports about there was this issue, there was that issue. I don't even know if the state can come in and take control. You're saying that may be a federal issue.
That is exactly the point, is that it's not that easy for the state just to come in and take over that way. You know, the state has the ability, obviously, to try its best to supervise and monitor. But the thing is, when the private company, when the private entity that actually owns the piece of infrastructure, in this case, a dam, when they're not in compliance, you know, you can file lawsuits, but the fact of the matter is you can't just come in and take it over because it's a private entity, and they would claim that that was a takings by state government. And so that's one of the problems, and that's why what you're hearing a lot, I think, and I think you just heard this, I caught the tail end of what the senators had to say, but what you just heard there, what you heard the governor say, and now you're going to hear me say it, is you should not have private entities that are permitted to own and operate these critical pieces of infrastructure like bridges or roads and certainly dams, because they're always going to prioritize profit over people, and they're just going to take as much as they can, and they're not going to put the money that's needed into maintenance of those constructs in a way that properly protects the public. And then when you go to sue them the way that we're seeing now, because we've already seen lawsuits filed, you don't know. I mean, are they just going to declare bankruptcy? Do they even have any money? What's going to be there? So when you have, say, the state that actually owns and operates a piece of infrastructure, if they fail, well, the state's always going to be there. You don't have to worry about it being a fly-by-night operation. The state of Michigan and their government will exist as long as our state is in, you know, in existence. But I don't know about Boise Hydro. I don't know what their economic condition is. And I hope that those who deserve to get indemnification, I hope that that money is there, but I don't know. I don't know what their finances are.
Is there any possible way for a criminal liability?
Well, I will tell you that it's certainly something that's going to be evaluated. And again, I know that the feds are doing this investigation. We're going to have to see what comes of the investigation and if there is anything that can be done under federal law or under state law in regard to either criminal or a civil complaint being generated. But I think it's a little too soon to know at this point. But will we evaluate it? Absolutely.
3 weeks ago, I believe it was, your office, or maybe a month ago, your office sued the owners of the dam, alleging it was illegally lowering the Wixom Lake, killing thousands of millions of freshwater mussels. I was out there yesterday. Several people stopped me and said, well, is the Attorney General valuing mussels over human life and public safety? How do you respond to those people?
Right. Well, just so you know, there was nothing that was a part of that lawsuit that had us indicating that during this time of year, they ought to be raising the lake levels. And in fact, the fact that Boise Hydro was raising the lake levels, firstly, that had been ordered by a couple different circuit courts. Secondly, it had to do with a lawsuit that had nothing to do with the state at all. These were private entities. It was local property owners in the area in concert with local units of government that had sued. As a result of that lawsuit, they asked for lake levels to be raised, and the court ordered it, and then the company received a permit in order to do that. So we never asked them to do that. Remember, there are certain times a year that the lake levels come down and certain times a year that the lake levels go up. But the state had absolutely nothing to do that. Were we suing over damage to the natural resources and ecology in the area? We were, but it's not related to the lake levels having been raised during this time of year. There's absolutely, people are conflating those two issues, and they ought not be conflated because they didn't have anything to do with one another.
Okay, just want to ask real quick about what everyone's been asking